Jared. Hello, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. I hope you were able to sleep. I'm sure your adrenaline was pumping
Oh,
very
of
high.
course not. Of
Yeah,
course not.
I mean it was tough. I mean it was electric. Okay. Um, after last night, uh, let's just start with this series. Is there any way Cleveland can put up a fight? Did anything happen last night that Cleveland can correct?
Not much. I mean, Darius Garland has just been so up and down during the postseason. So obviously they can get a lot more from him. I mean, him shooting 2 for 8 from three was probably as bad as it's going to get with him. So there could be some uptick there. They can get a little bit more out of Max Strus for sure. The only real variable that can, I don't know, flip the series, but bring the series a lot closer is Jared Allen returning from his rib injury that they're calling a rib contusion, but it seems like it's a pretty bad rib contusion. So, we don't know what his timeline is.
You
Yeah,
mentioned.
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you mentioned Max Strus, and he was one of the guys I was worried about going into last night. I'm not saying that the series is over by any stretch, but what did they do with Strus last night to make him so uncomfortable? 5 points, I think he ended up with in 35 minutes on the court.
Yeah, I mean they have really good personnel for guarding him. And just usually Max Strus, where he gets his stuff is he's a really good screener, and so a lot of defenses that he's going against, he'll screen off whoever's guarding Mitchell or Garland, and then he'll end up wide open, and the defense has to recover. And the Celtics are just good at avoiding that, and so he doesn't get a lot of that stuff. And then when he's doing his own like curls around a screen and all that kind of stuff, he wasn't really shaking loose a ton either. And then he shot 1 for 5 from deep as well. Like they shot 11 for 42. They had a bad shooting game. Donovan Mitchell was incredible early in this game and then just didn't really hit a ton of those later and had to do most of his work in the paint. And then Sam Merrill, who's their sharpshooter off the bench, he went over 4. So there was a lot of really bad shooting luck for them. Derek White had a great shooting night. Jaylen Brown shot 4 for 6, and we know Jaylen Brown's going to have a 1 for 8 game at some point in the series, and then he's going to probably have like a 6 for 9 game. So there's going to be some up and down shooting in this series, and I'm sure Cleveland will have a night where they shoot well enough to at least take one at some point.
Celtics always take and make a lot of threes. I think they led the NBA in both categories during the regular season. But was it me, Jared, or did the Celtics make an effort to go to the basket more without Jared Allen there?
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing coming into the series is how much can you pull Evan Mobley out of the paint and have him on Jason Tatum, have Al Horford in the pick and pop to try to get him out there a little bit more. And I think they did a pretty good job of finding ways to work around. They have their play where they kind of just put two guys on an island and try to attack that, and it gives them an advantage. They ran that like 30 times last night. I mean, they were just spamming that play over and over again, and that's something they usually do with Kristaps Porzingis out there. And so I thought it was pretty revelatory that they were doing it without him a ton. It just, I think, shows that the Celtics are feeling pretty confident in their scheme to the point that they don't even really care what personnel they have out there. They're still going to run their stuff.
Let's say Kristaps Porzingis during the course of this series feels like he could play. If you're the Celtics, would you play him?
No. I don't think he's going to. It doesn't seem like the series is going to go long enough for that to even be a factor, because I feel like he's going to probably be out for like 3-ish weeks at the very least. So I'd be surprised if that were to happen. Obviously, the series could end up going 6 or 7. Sure, if they get to a game 7 and he's remotely close, you probably play him, right? But it seems pretty unlikely we're going to get to that point.
Let's just stick with the Eastern Conference. Is there a team left in the Eastern Conference you think that the Celtics would need Porzingis to win?
Probably not. It would be. I mean, I think Indiana and New York are better than what this Cleveland team is. I mean, this Cleveland team has just been very inconsistent, and we saw what happened when they face a team that actually has an offense. Because Orlando's offense was not that good, and Boston's offense has been very resilient all season, no matter who was out there. So They could probably get away with not having him back into the finals, but you also, even if that was the case, you want him to not make his return for game one of the finals against Minnesota or whoever it ends up being. Who thought we'd be saying that even a week ago? So you want him back during the conference finals so he can get some reps under him so that he actually has a rhythm by the time they get to the finals. But I mean, no matter what the East looks like, you never just presume you're making the finals. New York has been so resilient all year. We saw how the end of that game went. So you need all hands on deck if you want to make it to the NBA Finals.
I watched Luke Cornett last night, and I was impressed by the way he played. Now, some of that may have had to do with the fact that Jared Allen wasn't in there, but the Celtics are going to need their bench at some point. It looks like they're playing very well at this point.
Some of that had to do with Tristan Thompson being out there, who I appreciate his effort, but he definitely looked kind of washed out there. I think Luke stepped up in a way that he doesn't often for this one. And I think a big part of that was Donovan Mitchell in particular really, really wanted to attack him. And Cornette held up so well. He wasn't really making positioning mistakes. He wasn't hacking at all. He was just going straight up. He had the right position, and he got so many stops in that game. And so, the 10 rebounds obviously stand out, but he had a lot of stops at the rim. And he had, one foul in 21 minutes? Mm-hmm. Like, to have one foul going up against Donovan Mitchell, that's really impressive. And so this was just one of his best games. And obviously the bark was probably the biggest contribution anybody had on the Celtics roster that game. So that's where Luke Cornett's bringing the goods. And then, the funny thing is that Peyton Pritchard had a terrible shooting night early on and shot his way through it, ended up pretty decent. And Sam Hauser went 0 for 1. And Hauser was the first sub coming in before Pritchard, and Pritchard ended up outplaying him to the point that they stuck with him for the rest of the game.
Yeah, Hauser made me look like an idiot last night because I was at the game with my daughter, and she's like, "Who's Sam Hauser?" I'm like, "Oh, he's in there. He's kind of a specialist. He's a 3-point shooter. Watch this." And no,
nothing.
He was more of a defensive specialist last night.
Yeah, exactly. They did make Tatum. Well, but we were talking about this earlier, Jared. Tatum did not have a good night. Were they making him uncomfortable? Were they doing something effective defensively? Did he just have a bad night? Was it a combination?
Tatum just has those nights where his shot just isn't right. He's missing those kind of pull-ups that he usually buries. I didn't really see anything in particular, but there were a few plays where Okoro had a good angle on him, or I think Mobley might have had a couple contests if I'm right. But Tatum's not always going to have a great night, and he's still. He still ran the offense pretty well. He was really aggressive on the boards. What do you have, like 3 blocks out there? I think the big thing with Tatum that you'll notice is as the game went on, his rebounding got really aggressive. He was flying past Evan Mobley for some of those. He was getting way up in the air. That's a really good sign. That when you're deep in the postseason, and one of your key offensive players isn't in rhythm, a lot of teams, that guy just kind of fades away. Like Darius Garland was someone who didn't really make much of an impact on this game. And you saw Tatum finding different ways to make an impact. And I think him just really dominating the glass and protecting the rim, that was where he showed it.
Well, you can set your watch by the Tatum, I'm just going to back this guy down and kill like 8-10 seconds on the shot clock and take the shot no matter what play. And it normally comes after he's missed 2 shots from the field. And he missed a couple last night. He made one, but it's uncanny. Where, you're sitting there watching like, oh, here it goes. He's got guys out on the perimeter, but he's not giving that ball up. He's just going to back it down, and he's going to shoot no matter what.
And there's going to be a team that they face at some point that's going to really make him pay because he's not, like, for instance, if they face Minnesota, there's not really anybody on Minnesota that you can just go target and abuse to find your rhythm. He needs to be smart about the way he goes about it. I think Tatum at this point has demonstrated enough self-awareness and he's had enough experience that he'll recognize when he's going up against a team where he can't really do that. And so I would, if I'm a Celtics fan, I would trust Tatum to be responsible and do things a smart way.
Isn't it funny that everyone made fun of the way Minnesota put that team together, and now having those 2 bigs, everyone is saying is brilliant, and Karl Anthony Towns is, because of Anthony Edwards, been able to, respect his game finally. And
He's no longer the number one, and with all that pressure, he fits in nicely as a number two.
yeah, I remember everyone was like, "What the hell? You got Gobert? Why'd you trade for Gobert?" And now it's like, wow, you guys could win it could be a situation.
Held Denver to 80 points without the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year 2 nights ago.
That's the fascinating part, is that, I mean, obviously Gobert has been amazing for them, but it's really everything else that's happened around the Gobert deal that's been so good for them. Like, J.D. McDaniels has really turned the corner as one of the best defenders in the league. They got Nickeil Alexander-Walker in that Mike Conley trade, and he was like a scorer that was kind of falling off and not really having a role in the NBA. He's turned into a great defender. Like, they just have Chris Finch has just turned everybody into really good defenders there. And now that Ant is defending his ass off, it's like now he's basically Michael Jordan, but a little bit better. And they just, doesn't really matter if Gobert is out there. They're still affecting Jokic basically every single moment he's on the floor, and that's why they're playing so well. And so that's what makes Minnesota so scary for Boston or whoever faces them in the finals potentially. It's like they're going to disrupt you no matter how you play.
All right, Jared Weiss, you'll see you Thursday. He's covering this series for The Athletic. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks, Jared.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.